Marcus Hale was 34 years old, a black single father, and every morning of his life began the same way with a quiet promise to himself that he would do his best again today. He lived in a small, clean two-bedroom apartment on the second floor of an aging building near the edge of the city. The walls were thin, the stairs creaked, and the heating system made strange noises in winter, but to Marcus it was home. More importantly, it was home for his daughter, Lily. Lily was 8 years old, bright-eyed, curious, and gentle in a way that made Marcus constantly aware of how carefully he needed to shape the world around her. She had inherited his deep brown eyes but had her late mother's calm smile. Every morning, Marcus woke before sunrise, prepared breakfast, packed Lily's school bag, and braided her hair with careful hands that had learned patience through love. He wasn't perfect at it, but Lily always smiled in the mirror and said, "It looks nice, Daddy," and that was enough. Marcus worked as a facilities technician at a mid-sized corporate office building downtown. His job involved fixing lights, checking air systems, repairing doors, and making sure the building functioned smoothly for the people who worked there. He wore simple clothes, plain shirts, worn boots, and a jacket that had seen better days. He liked routine because routine meant stability, and stability meant Lily felt safe. After dropping Lily at school, Marcus took the bus to work. He always sat near the window, watching the city wake up, coffee shops opening, people rushing, street vendors setting up. He noticed small things: a man feeding birds, a woman laughing on her phone, a kid dragging a backpack too big for his shoulders. These moments reminded him that everyone was carrying something, even if you couldn't see it. Marcus didn't talk much at work unless spoken to. He did his job well, never complained, and often stayed late when something needed fixing. People knew him as reliable, some nodded politely, others barely noticed him, and Marcus was okay with that. His life wasn't about being seen, it was about providing. At night, after homework and dinner, Marcus and Lily sat together on the couch. Sometimes they watched old cartoons. Sometimes Lily read aloud while Marcus listened, pretending not to be tired. When she finally fell asleep, Marcus sat quietly, planning tomorrow in his head: bills, groceries, school projects, overtime hours. Life was tight, but it was honest. That was Marcus Hale's life: simple, steady, predictable. Until one morning, when everything changed. Marcus's biggest struggle wasn't exhaustion or money, though both were constant companions. It was the feeling that no matter how hard he worked, life always stayed one step ahead of him. There were bills that never seemed to shrink, repairs that couldn't wait, and moments when Lily asked questions he didn't know how to answer. "Daddy," Lily once asked while tying her shoes, "why don't we go on vacations like my friend Emma?" Marcus smiled and crouched beside her. "Because everyone's life looks different, kiddo. Ours is just a little simpler." He said it calmly, but later that night, those words sat heavy on his chest. The weight grew heavier when the building where Marcus worked announced internal changes. Rumors floated through the hallways: budget reviews, restructuring, new leadership. Some employees joked nervously, others brushed it off. Marcus listened quietly, knowing that people like him were usually the first to feel the impact. One afternoon, while fixing a loose door handle on the executive floor, Marcus overheard voices through a half-open office door. "We need efficiency," a woman said firmly. "That includes operations." Her voice was calm, confident, and unmistakably in charge. "That's the new CEO," someone whispered later. "She's serious." Marcus didn't think much of it at the time. CEOs came and went. People at the top lived in a different world. But weeks later, Marcus's supervisor called him in. "They're cutting overtime," the supervisor said, avoiding eye contact, "and we might reduce staff hours." Marcus nodded slowly, understood. Inside, panic stirred. Overtime was what kept groceries full and the lights on. Without it, things would get tight, uncomfortably tight. That night, Marcus sat at the kitchen table long after Lily had gone to bed, staring at a notebook filled with numbers. He ran calculations again and again, hoping they would change. They didn't. The next day, a sudden emergency call came from the building late at night. A water pipe had burst on the executive floor. Marcus was asked to come in immediately. He hesitated. It was late. Lily was asleep. He had no one else to watch her. But overtime meant money, and money meant stability. He made a difficult choice. Marcus called a trusted neighbor, an older woman who had watched Lily before. She agreed to stay the night. Marcus kissed Lily's forehead, whispered that he'd be back soon, and rushed out. That decision would change everything. The executive floor was quiet when Marcus arrived. Most offices were dark, lights reflecting off polished floors. The burst pipe had flooded part of the hallway and Marcus worked quickly, rolling up his sleeves, shutting off valves and mopping water before it caused further damage. Hours passed. By the time Marcus finished, it was past midnight. He was exhausted, damp, and sore. As he packed his tools, a door opened at the end of the hall. A woman stepped out holding a phone. She looked surprised to see him. "Oh, sorry," she said. "I didn't realize maintenance was still here." Marcus straightened. "Pipe issue, it's handled." She nodded, studying the wet floor. "Thank you for coming in so late." Her voice was familiar. She was the CEO. Her name, Marcus would later learn, was Evelyn Carter. She was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, composed, wearing simple clothes rather than business attire. She looked tired but focused. "It's my job," Marcus said. Evelyn hesitated. "The buses don't run this late, do they?" "No, ma'am. I can give you a ride," she offered casually. Marcus paused. He wasn't used to offers like that. "That's kind of you, but I don't want to trouble." "It's no trouble," she said. "I'm heading that way anyway." Reluctantly, Marcus agreed. The ride was quiet at first. City lights passed by, reflected on the windshield. Eventually, Evelyn spoke. "You work hard," she said. "I see you around, you're thorough." Marcus glanced at her, surprised. "Thank you." When they reached his building, rain began to fall. "Do you need to grab anything from inside?" Evelyn asked. "I can wait." Marcus hesitated. "It's late, I don't want you waiting in the rain." "I don't mind." He invited her in briefly, just to avoid awkwardness. Inside, the apartment was warm, modest, and quiet. Marcus grabbed a towel and returned, but before he could speak, Evelyn looked around and noticed a small pair of shoes by the door, crayon drawings on the fridge. "You have a child," she said softly. "My daughter," Marcus replied. "She's 8. Evelyn smiled faintly. "You're doing a good job." Something about the way she said it, simple, sincere, made Marcus uncomfortable. No one ever said that to him. Rain grew heavier. "It might be safer to wait a bit," Evelyn said. They sat at opposite ends of the couch talking quietly about work, the city, small things. Marcus didn't know how it happened, but exhaustion caught up with him. The next thing he knew, morning light filled the room. And Evelyn Carter was standing in his kitchen, wearing his shirt. Marcus woke with confusion first, then shock. He sat up quickly, heart racing, trying to understand what he was seeing. Evelyn stood near the counter holding a mug, his oversized shirt draped loosely on her. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "Your neighbor checked on us this morning," I explained. Marcus rubbed his face. I didn't expect." She took a breath. "Nothing inappropriate happened. You fell asleep. I stayed because the storm was bad," your neighbor insisted. Marcus nodded slowly, still frozen. Then Evelyn looked at him, not as a CEO, not as someone above him, but as a person. "I owe you an apology," she said. "For what?" Marcus asked. "For not seeing people like you sooner," she said quietly. "I talk about numbers and efficiency, but last night I saw your life, your daughter's drawings, your schedule, your exhaustion." She paused. "I've been making decisions from a distance. That's not leadership." Marcus didn't know what to say. "I won't promise miracles," she continued, "but I will promise this: I will do better starting today." Later that week, overtime cuts were reconsidered, staff hours stabilized, a childcare support program was quietly introduced. Marcus never asked for favors, he never needed to. But one morning, as he walked Lily to school, she looked up at him. "Daddy," she said, "you look lighter." Marcus smiled. "I think," he said, "things are finally catching up to us." Life didn't become perfect overnight. Marcus still worked hard, bills still came, but something had shifted. At work, he was greeted by name, his input was asked for, he felt seen, not elevated, just respected. Evelyn remained professional, but there was understanding now. Months later, Marcus received a promotion, modest but meaningful, better hours, slightly better pay. That night, Marcus and Lily celebrated with takeout and laughter. "Does this mean we can go to the beach someday?" Lily asked. Marcus chuckled. "Someday soon." And for the first time, he believed it. Life doesn't always change because someone powerful steps in. Sometimes it changes because people finally see each other clearly. Marcus didn't succeed because he demanded attention. He succeeded because he never stopped showing up with honesty, dignity, and quiet strength. And Evelyn didn't change the system because she had to, she changed because she listened. The moral is simple. Every person you pass is carrying a story. When we slow down long enough to see it, we don't just change their lives, we change our own. Sometimes, all it takes is one moment of understanding to turn survival into hope.